Okay, so picture this. You're Caeleb Dressel, one of the most decorated swimmers in Olympic history, grinding through your morning training session. The pool's pristine, the water's perfectly measured, your coach is timing your splits down to the hundredth of a second. And then, you hear it. That unmistakable babbling. The giggles. The chaos. Because somehow, someway, the minions have crashed your Olympic training session. Yes, those minions. The little yellow chaos agents from Despicable Me just showed up at an elite athlete's practice, and honestly, this is the crossover nobody saw coming but absolutely everyone needed. Let me set the stage here. Caeleb Dressel isn't just some guy who swims fast, which is wild by the way. We're talking about a 7-time Olympic gold medalist. 7. This man has dominated freestyle and butterfly events like he's playing a video game on easy mode. He's broken world records, shattered American records, and basically made other elite swimmers question their life choices. His training regimen is insane. We're talking hours in the pool daily, strength training, nutrition plans that would make a nutritionist weep with joy. Every single detail is optimized for peak performance. A typical training day for Caeleb starts before most people's alarms even think about going off. Morning swim session, technique work, sprint sets that would leave mere mortals gasping for air. Then it's weights, core strengthening, recovery protocols. His coaches monitor everything. Heart rate, stroke count, turn times, underwater kicks. There's zero room for distraction in this world. Every variable is controlled. Every movement has purpose. The pool deck is basically a laboratory where they're engineering the perfect swimmer. So you can imagine how this environment reacts when 3-foot-tall yellow creatures in overalls just appear. Now let's talk about the minions for a second. These little yellow pill-shaped agents of absolute mayhem have been causing chaos since Despicable Me dropped in 2010. They speak their own language that's somehow a mix of every language and no language simultaneously. They're obsessed with bananas. They follow whoever the most villainous person around is, though they've got hearts of gold underneath all that mischief. They've starred in their own movies, taken over Happy Meals, and basically infiltrated every corner of pop culture. But Olympic swimming training? That's new territory even for them. So according to everyone who was there, Caeleb was mid-set. Just absolutely crushing a butterfly interval workout. Focus locked in, technique perfect. And then from the entrance to the pool facility, there's this noise. This babbling, giggling, unmistakable sound. The minions waddle in, and I mean waddle because that's the only word for how they move. They've got their goggles on, which is adorable and also completely unnecessary because minions in goggles is peak comedy. They're carrying pool noodles. They're ready to swim. Nobody invited them. Nobody coordinated this. They just showed up like they owned the place. You have to understand, elite athletes live in a bubble during training. Distractions are eliminated. Random appearances by animated characters? Not in the playbook. So when Caeleb surfaces from his set and sees 3 minions standing poolside, his face apparently went through about 17 different emotions in 2 seconds. Confusion, amusement, disbelief, and maybe a tiny bit of concern because, let's be honest, minions and controlled environments don't exactly mix. His coach's face, by the way, was reportedly priceless. Like someone just told him gravity stopped working. The whole pool deck just froze for a second. Here's the thing about minions. They don't just show up randomly, well, actually they kind of do, but this time there was something resembling a plan. Apparently this whole thing was coordinated by NBC Sports as a fun promotional crossover. The new Minions movie was coming out, Caeleb's training for the Olympics, someone in a marketing meeting had an absolutely unhinged idea, and somehow everyone said yes. The minions were briefed, sort of, on pool etiquette. They were told to be respectful of the training environment. Did they listen? Well, they're minions, so what do you think happened next? The first minion to approach the pool edge did so with the confidence of someone who's won Olympic gold. Spoiler alert, he has not. He's wearing floaties, which raises questions about minion buoyancy that I'm not qualified to answer. He waddles to the edge, looks at Caeleb, gives him a thumbs up, and just cannonballs straight into the lane. Not a dive. Not a careful entry. A full-on cannonball that sends water absolutely everywhere. Caeleb's carefully measured training environment just got splashed with pure chaos. The other minions are cheering like their buddy just stuck a perfect 10 dismount. Of course, where one minion goes, chaos follows. The second minion decides he wants in on this action. But instead of jumping, he tries to do what I can only describe as a dive. It's more of a belly flop performed by someone who learned about diving from a badly translated instruction manual. The sound echoes through the entire facility. The third minion, bless his heart, attempts a backstroke entry and somehow gets tangled in his own goggles before even hitting the water. Within 30 seconds, the Olympic training pool has been transformed into what looks like a public pool on the 4th of July. To his absolute credit, Caeleb tries to maintain composure. This is a man who's performed under Olympic pressure with millions watching. Surely he can handle 3 small creatures in his lane. He attempts to continue his interval set, swimming around the minions who are now attempting their own version of freestyle. And I use the term freestyle very loosely here. One minion is basically just thrashing. Another one discovered he can float and has decided that's his entire swimming strategy now. The third is trying to follow Caeleb's technique and it's both adorable and completely ineffective. Then things escalate, because of course they do. One of the minions apparently smuggled a banana poolside, which violates approximately 17 pool safety regulations. He's eating it while floating, which is already questionable, but then he offers Caeleb a bite mid-stroke. Just holds it out while Caeleb's trying to execute a perfect butterfly pull. Caeleb, to his credit, politely declines while maintaining his stroke rate. The minion seems confused by this rejection. In Minion World, refusing a banana is probably equivalent to a declaration of war. The other minions start babbling loudly, debating the banana situation in their incomprehensible language. Meanwhile, Caeleb's coach is having an absolute moment on the pool deck. This man has trained Olympians, developed championship programs, optimized training protocols down to the millisecond. And now he's watching his star athlete share lane space with characters from a children's movie. He's got his stopwatch in one hand, his clipboard in the other, and his brain is probably short-circuiting trying to figure out how to log this session. Do you count the intervals? Are the splits still valid? How do you account for minion interference in your training metrics? These are questions his sports science degree did not prepare him for. After thoroughly disrupting the pool itself, the minions discover the starting blocks. These are the platforms Olympic swimmers launch from at the beginning of races. They're precisely engineered for maximum push-off power. They are not, and I cannot stress this enough, designed for minion shenanigans. But that doesn't stop them. One minion climbs up, gets into what he thinks is starting position, which looks more like he's trying to hug the block, and just launches himself forward with zero technique. He lands flat in the water with a splash that could probably be seen from space. The other minions think this is the greatest thing ever witnessed. At some point, one of the minions gets a brilliant idea, which in minion terms means a completely unhinged idea. He challenges Caeleb to a race. Just walks up, or waddles up, and makes it clear through elaborate gestures and excited babbling that he wants to race an Olympic champion. The audacity is actually impressive. Caeleb, because he's apparently a good sport and also probably realizes resistance is futile at this point, agrees. They line up, well, Caeleb lines up properly and the minion sort of exists near the starting position. Someone does a countdown. And the race is absolutely as one-sided as you'd expect. Caeleb touches the wall in what's probably a respectable time even though he's clearly taking it easy. The minion, bless him, is still somewhere near the starting end, having abandoned actual swimming in favor of just enjoying being in water. He's floating on his back now, completely content, having apparently forgotten there was a race happening. The other minions are cheering for their friend anyway, because minions support each other's delusions. Caeleb surfaces, looks back at his competitor who's now playing with a pool noodle, and just laughs. You can see the moment he realizes fighting this chaos is pointless and he might as well enjoy it. In what might be the most optimistic moment of the day, Caeleb decides to try teaching the minions proper swimming technique. He demonstrates the freestyle stroke, breaking it down into steps. Catch, pull, recovery. Simple, right? The minions watch with what appears to be intense focus. They nod. They seem to understand. And then they attempt to replicate it and somehow create an entirely new stroke that defies the laws of physics and hydrodynamics. One minion is moving his arms in circles. Another one is kicking in the completely wrong direction. The third has somehow started spinning. Caeleb's face shows a man questioning every coaching instinct he has. Olympic training pools have underwater cameras to analyze stroke technique. They're expensive, precisely positioned, essential for elite training. The minions discover these cameras and, well, you can see where this is going. They press their faces against the glass, making ridiculous expressions directly into the lens. They're waving. They're doing poses. One of them tries to photobomb Caeleb's technique analysis footage. The video team watching the monitors is probably having a breakdown because their carefully captured training footage now looks like a Minions movie blooper reel. But also, the footage is probably hilarious and definitely going viral later. The minions then discover all the other pool equipment. Kickboards become surfboards. Pull buoys become toys. Training fins are tried on, even though they're way too big and the minions can barely walk in them, which doesn't stop them from trying. They find the pace clock and become obsessed with the sweeping second hand, just watching it go around and around like it's the most fascinating thing they've ever seen. One minion discovers the lane lines and decides to walk across them like a tightrope, which works about as well as you'd expect. Each piece of precisely calibrated training equipment becomes a toy in the Minion Chaos playbook. At some point, other swimmers from Caeleb's training group start arriving for their session. They walk onto the pool deck, ready for serious Olympic preparation, and just stop dead in their tracks. There are minions. In their pool. Using their equipment. Racing their teammate. Nobody briefed them on this. One swimmer just turns around and walks back out, probably assuming he's having a stress-induced hallucination. Another one pulls out his phone immediately because this needs to be documented. A third just starts laughing and doesn't stop for like 2 minutes straight. The whole professional atmosphere has completely evaporated and been replaced with pure absurdist comedy. Someone from NBC Sports, probably the person who orchestrated this beautiful disaster, suggests a group photo. Getting Olympic swimmers to pose for a photo is easy. They're used to media. Getting minions to pose for a photo is like herding cats who don't understand the concept of cameras or standing still. The first attempt has 2 minions making faces and one completely out of frame. Second attempt, one's doing bunny ears behind Caeleb's head. Third attempt, they're all looking in different directions. By the 5th try, everyone's just laughing too hard to care about composition. The final photo is chaotic, slightly blurry, and absolutely perfect. The moment NBC Sports posts this content, the internet loses its collective mind. The video of minions cannonballing into an Olympic pool goes viral within hours. Twitter is having a field day with memes. Instagram is flooded with screenshots of the minions' attempted swimming technique. TikTok creators are already making response videos. The combination of elite athletic training and absolute cartoon chaos hits some perfect sweet spot in the cultural zeitgeist. Comments are pouring in from around the world. People love seeing Olympic athletes in these light-hearted moments. The Minions fanbase is ecstatic. Swimming fans are amused. Everyone wins in this scenario. Other Olympic athletes start chiming in on social media, and their reactions are gold. Swimmers from other countries are posting laughing emojis and comments about wanting Minions at their training sessions. Athletes from completely different sports are tagging their teams asking why they don't get fun crossover events. Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian ever, apparently commented something about being jealous. Track athletes, gymnasts, even some winter sports competitors are getting in on the fun. It becomes this whole thing where athletes are jokingly demanding which cartoon characters they want interrupting their training. The sports world is having a genuinely good time with this. Of course, this whole thing was timed perfectly with the new Minions movie release, which is brilliant marketing honestly. The crossover introduces the Minions to sports fans who might not typically watch animated movies, and it shows Olympic swimming to families who are definitely seeing the Minions film. It's cross-promotional genius. The movie studio is thrilled. NBC Sports gets amazing viral content. Caeleb gets exposure to new audiences. The Minions get to add Olympic training to their ridiculous resume of activities. Everyone involved in planning this is probably getting bonuses. Marketing teams everywhere are taking notes on how to do crossover events right. Let's talk about what it actually took to make this happen, because coordinating Minion appearances is apparently complicated. The characters obviously aren't real, so you've got performers in costumes. Those costumes are not designed for swimming pools. Water damage, visibility issues, safety concerns. They had to figure out how to make this work without actually dunking expensive character suits in chlorinated water. There were probably stand-ins, creative camera angles, maybe some movie magic editing. The logistics team deserves an award for pulling this off. Plus, coordinating schedules between Olympic training, which is rigidly planned, and a promotional shoot. That's a nightmare of calendar Tetris. Here's something cool that came out of this. Kids who saw the Minions at the pool got interested in swimming. Parents reported their children asking about swim lessons after watching the video. Swimming organizations saw an uptick in inquiries. Suddenly, Olympic swimming was on the radar of families who'd never thought about the sport. Caeleb's Instagram gained thousands of young followers. The Minions, completely accidentally, became swimming ambassadors. It's a reminder that sometimes the best way to promote sports isn't through serious campaigns but through pure fun that captures imagination. Getting kids interested in athletics through characters they already love? That's actually brilliant. In interviews after the event, Caeleb talks about how surreal the whole experience was. Here's a guy who's spent his entire life in pools, competed at the highest level, experienced every type of training scenario imaginable. And then Minions show up. He says it was actually a refreshing break from the intensity of Olympic preparation. Training is grueling, mentally and physically exhausting. Having this moment of pure absurdity reminded him why sports should be fun. He mentions the Minions had better enthusiasm than some professional swimmers he's competed against, which is both funny and probably true. His ability to roll with the chaos showed a side of elite athletes people don't always see. Caeleb's coach, who initially looked like he was experiencing a personal crisis, eventually came around. Once he realized the training data for that day was basically unusable anyway, he apparently just embraced the chaos. Coaches are used to controlling every variable, so this was probably therapeutic in a weird way. Sometimes you can't control everything and you just have to laugh. He later admitted the whole thing was good for team morale. Athletes training for the Olympics deal with enormous pressure. A morning of Minion-induced chaos probably released more stress than a month of meditation. Sports psychology experts would probably agree that sometimes the best training is not training at all. Let's do a quick comparison here, because the differences are honestly hilarious. Olympic swimming is about precision, technique, years of training, optimized everything. Minion swimming is about enthusiasm, chaos, complete disregard for hydrodynamics, and hoping for the best. Olympic swimmers measure success in hundredths of seconds. Minions measure success in whether they're having fun and if anyone's noticed they smuggled a banana. Olympic training follows sports science. Minion training follows whatever random impulse hits their brain. Yet somehow, putting these two worlds together created something magical. The contrast is what made it work. Pure discipline meets pure chaos and everyone enjoys the collision. After this video went viral, athletes from other sports started jokingly requesting their own crossover events. Gymnasts wanted SpongeBob at their gym. Basketball players tagged Space Jam characters. Track athletes asked for the Road Runner. Figure skaters wanted Elsa from Frozen, which actually makes thematic sense. The requests got increasingly ridiculous and increasingly funny. Someone suggested sumo wrestlers meet Totoro. A pole vaulter wanted Wall E. Coyote. Tennis players asked for Bugs Bunny. It became this whole social media movement of athletes imagining which characters would hilariously disrupt their training. NBC Sports probably has a spreadsheet now of potential future crossovers. The possibilities are endless and all of them sound amazing. The internet's meme creators had a field day with this content. Screenshots of minions attempting swimming technique became templates. Caeleb's expression of bemused confusion became a reaction image. The contrast between Olympic precision and minion chaos spawned countless memes about trying your best versus actual competence. People used it to describe work situations, life challenges, unrealistic expectations. The banana offering moment became a symbol for awkward social interactions. Someone made a version with the minions photoshopped into other Olympic events, which was unnecessary but appreciated. The meme economy generated from one promotional event probably has more value than some small countries' GDPs. The cultural impact extended far beyond the initial video. The actual swimming community had mixed but mostly positive reactions. Serious swim fans appreciated seeing Caeleb in a lighthearted moment. Coaches saw the value in showing that elite athletes can have fun. Youth swimming programs loved having viral content to share that made their sport look accessible and fun rather than intimidating. Some purists grumbled about not taking training seriously, but they were vastly outnumbered by people who understood the value of this exposure. Swimming isn't always the most visible Olympic sport. This video got millions of eyes on the pool, on Caeleb, on the sport itself. That kind of exposure is invaluable for growing swimming's audience and inspiring the next generation. This crossover event teaches us something important about modern marketing and audience engagement. Traditional sports promotion is serious, focused on statistics and achievements and glory. That's fine, but it doesn't always connect emotionally. Bringing in elements of fun, nostalgia, and surprise creates moments people actually want to share. Nobody shares a standard training video. Everyone shares minions crashing in Olympic swimmers' practice. The lesson is that sometimes the best way to promote something serious is to not take it seriously for a moment. Let audiences see the human, playful side. Create content that makes people smile while introducing them to your sport or brand. It's marketing that doesn't feel like marketing. This wasn't actually the Minions' first Olympic-adjacent appearance, which is a weird sentence to type. They've been featured in promotional content before, showed up at Olympic partner events, generally inserted themselves into major sporting moments because that's what Minions do. But actually being in the pool with an active Olympic champion during training? That's new territory. The Minions have achieved a lot in their fictional careers. They've worked for supervillains, starred in blockbuster movies, sold countless toys. But disrupting elite athletic training might be their crowning achievement. They've now officially crossed every boundary that exists. There are no limits to where Minions can appear anymore. Nowhere is safe from yellow chaos. Weeks after the initial posting, this video continues to circulate and generate engagement. It gets shared during Olympic coverage as a fun sidebar story. Swimming websites embedded in articles about Caeleb. Minions fan pages included in their highlight reels. It's become one of those pieces of content that just lives forever in the internet ecosystem. Parents show it to their kids. Swim coaches play it before practice to lighten the mood. It appears in social media compilations of wholesome sports moments. The shelf life of this content far exceeds what anyone probably expected. That's the mark of truly successful viral content. It doesn't just spike and die, it continues to find new audiences. Caeleb mentioned in later interviews that this experience actually taught him something valuable about handling pressure and unexpected situations. In swimming, things go wrong. Someone false starts, there's a technical issue, conditions aren't perfect. Elite athletes need to adapt and maintain focus. Having minions crash your training is basically the ultimate unexpected situation drill. If you can maintain any semblance of composure while yellow creatures are cannonballing into your lane, you can probably handle whatever the Olympics throw at you. It's unconventional training psychology, but it kind of makes sense. Sometimes the best preparation for chaos is experiencing different chaos. Plus, he gained valuable experience in not laughing mid-stroke, which is harder than it sounds. This event worked because the timing was perfect. Olympics approaching, new Minions movie releasing, summer season when people are thinking about pools and swimming, social media hungry for light-hearted content. Miss any of those elements and maybe it doesn't hit the same way. But everything aligned perfectly. The marketing teams deserve credit for recognizing that convergence and capitalizing on it. Sometimes success is about execution, but sometimes it's about recognizing when conditions are right for something special. This was that moment. Lightning in a bottle. A perfect storm of cultural timing, brand synergy, athlete availability, and creative willingness to try something completely ridiculous. You can't always plan for that, but you can recognize it when it appears. This opens the door for so many future possibilities. What other animated characters could visit Olympic training? What other athletes would be game for this kind of content? Imagine the Mario brothers showing up at a track practice. Shrek at weightlifting. Dory from Finding Nemo at synchronized swimming, which would actually be perfect. The Pokémon at literally any sport would work. These crossovers create win-win scenarios. Athletes get exposure to new audiences. Entertainment brands get association with Olympic excellence. Audiences get content that's genuinely entertaining. NBC Sports basically created a template that can be replicated across different sports and different character franchises. The only limit is imagination and which brands want to play along. At its core, this whole event succeeded because it showcased the human element of Olympic athletes. We put these swimmers on pedestals, view them as superhuman, focus on their achievements and records. But seeing Caeleb laugh while minions splash around reminds us that athletes are people who can enjoy absurd moments. That relatability is powerful. It makes Olympic sports feel more accessible. Kids watching think maybe they could be swimmers too. Adults appreciate seeing excellence paired with humility and humor. The minions were the vehicle, but the real story is seeing an Olympic champion be genuinely human. That connection between athlete and audience is what sports are really about underneath all the competition and medals. Let's not overthink this. Sometimes content succeeds simply because it brings joy. The world has enough serious content, enough dramatic storylines, enough intensity. Sometimes people just want to watch minions being ridiculous in a pool while an Olympic swimmer tries to maintain his sanity. Pure, uncomplicated joy. The video makes people smile. It's shareable because spreading happiness feels good. In an era where social media can be exhausting and negative, content that's genuinely fun without any dark undertones stands out. This video isn't trying to teach a lesson or sell something aggressively or create controversy. It's just fun. And maybe that's the most valuable thing content can be sometimes. NBC Sports deserves credit for being willing to try something this unconventional. Sports broadcasting can be traditional and risk-averse. Suggesting that cartoon characters interrupt Olympic training could have been shot down in a million different meetings. Someone had to pitch this, defend it, coordinate it, and believe it would work. That takes vision and willingness to embrace creative risk. The success of this content shows that sports media companies can push boundaries and try new formats. Audiences respond to innovation. The traditional game broadcast isn't going anywhere, but supplementing it with creative content like this expands reach and engagement. NBC Sports took a swing and connected. That's worth recognizing and hopefully encourages more creative experimentation. As the minions finally left the pool facility, probably escorted out before they could cause more delightful chaos, one final moment captured everything perfectly. One minion turned back, waved at Caeleb, and did one more cannonball for the road. Just absolutely launched himself into the pool one last time, creating a massive splash that probably violated every pool regulation that exists. Caeleb waved back, laughing, already knowing this was going to be a story he tells forever. His coach shook his head, but he was smiling too. The other swimmers applauded. And just like that, one of the most unusual Olympic training sessions ever concluded. The pool returned to normal, but everyone there knew they'd just been part of something special and completely ridiculous. So why does any of this matter? Because sports need moments like this. Olympic training is serious business, as it should be. But the public relationship with Olympic sports benefits from seeing the lighter side. This video introduced swimming to people who'd never watch a swim meet. It made an Olympic champion relatable. It created joy in a space usually reserved for intensity and pressure. The minions crushing Caeleb Dressel's training won't affect his Olympic performance or swimming records, but it might affect how many kids sign up for swim lessons or how many people tune in to watch swimming during the next Olympics. And that matters for the long-term health and growth of the sport. Sometimes the best thing for athletic excellence is remembering that sports are supposed to be fun. This video will live on in internet history as one of those perfect viral moments. Years from now, it'll appear in compilations of wholesome sports content and best Olympic adjacent moments. It'll be referenced when Caeleb Dressel is being profiled. The minions will probably claim it as one of their greatest achievements, which is fair. NBC Sports will use it as a case study for successful branded content. Marketing teams will analyze what made it work. And somewhere, a kid who watched this video will be inspired to try swimming, maybe eventually becoming an Olympic athlete themselves, carrying on a legacy that started with cartoon characters crashing a pool deck. The impact of one ridiculous morning extends far beyond what anyone could have predicted. And honestly, that's kind of beautiful.